Oh, yeah. Woo! I love that song. And you sing it great, both of you. And that's you and your brother or cousin?
It's my brother Ricky Peterson on keyboards,
Yeah.
and that is my nephew Jason Peterson Delaire on saxophone, and
Bass.
bass.
Whoa, sorry. Hold on one second.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
And the bassist is a guy named Billy Franzi. The drummer is Bobby Vandell. And we were doing a benefit for a friend of ours who was in a car accident and then we were at a nightclub in St. Paul. And that, of course, when Ricky and I were both coming up in the music scene in the Twin Cities, we sang together, played together all the time. And we searched out a lot of songs like that. So we brought it back to the forefront when we decided we were going to start hanging and doing some more gigging together, which we
Yeah.
do. And so it's a lot of fun. So, and I'm hoping you're hearing me okay, because sometimes my Zoom likes to get turned lower. And so I'm going to look for my
Oh, yeah, I know. Sometimes that happens. I hear that, but it sounds good, I think.
good.
And
Glad to hear it.
people will tell me if you seem a little soft. So, um, yeah, man, your voice. I mean, even just hearing that, because we're not hearing you solo, but your voice really resonates in a good spot in my ears.
That's a singer to singer ultimate compliment.
It is. It really is.
You resonate with me. It's not one of these things. You resonate.
Yeah, it gets really in there and it's like, ooh, I like that.
A lot of fun. Absolutely a lot of fun. So,
Great sound. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a proper introduction. This is Patty Peterson, and she lives in Minneapolis. Is that
right.
right? Yeah.
I'm
And
from Minneapolis. Yes.
yeah, and we're going to get into this. They she's from this family that basically has this I don't know what to call it, an empire, a musical empire there, and very respected musicians, really good people. This is just what I know, even living away from there, and it's really a very interesting story. I don't hear a lot of stories like this, and so it's I definitely want to get into it and find out how it felt growing up in that, because I don't know when it started. Your father or something, is that correct? Your father was.
Both of our parents were musicians and met on a job when they were about 19. And they were, those were the days of one car, and one car would go pick up all the guys and the girl singer.
Oh my
And
gosh.
at that point, there were so many people in the car, the girl usually had to sit on somebody's lap. And so mother was a piano player, vocalist,
Those were
dad
the
a
days.
vocalist, and she looked around and looked at dad and said, "He's cute," and the rest is history. That cute.
Cute.
That's a story she tells anyway. And so she was 19 and they would do different jobs. She on piano and vocals sometimes,
Hmm.
she as the girl singer, but they, that was it. That was the music of the day. It was popular music, it was show tunes with maybe some hipper changes, and that was what was going on. And now we know it as the Great American Songbook, I guess, is what we would
Yeah.
say. Mhm.
Yeah. So was that the beginning of I don't know what you call it. I just kind of found the word empire, but I'm sure there's a different word that you
We've
guys
had
use.
musical dynasty in the past. So
Was that the beginning, your parents, or?
but in a professional way, I would say that my mom's mom played piano for silent movies,
Oh,
and her dad was a fiddler. And my grandmother Peterson played guitar. I don't know if Grandpa Peterson played an instrument. I cannot remember. And if cousin Tommy Peterson was listening, he would be able to correct me here, send me a text message or something. But anyway, I don't remember if Grandpa played an instrument or not, but my hunch is they may have, because back in those days there were barn dances. So, was he a fiddle player? I'm not sure. But cousin Tom, who was with the Tonight Show band and still is an LA resident, was a sax player, and he and his two brothers were prolific musicians. Their dad, a child prodigy violinist. So there was music on that side. And on my mom's side, her older brother Donald was a saxophonist who played a lot of the nightclubs at a young age, and they would play and sing around the piano, the upright piano together. And
Huh.
actually, mom, who's Jeanne Arland Peterson, her brother got her into doing nightclubs at 15 years old. Because
Oh,
remember this bit of history, when women were getting married, they had to leave their jobs. So mom, when she was 15, it was 1936. So she came in to do an audition, and her mother said, oh, sure. You know, it was kind of the Depression era, that type of thing. She said, if you have to do your homework and your brother has to look out for you. And so she waltzes into this audition, and she said, I'd like to sing this song. And the piano player said, well, I don't know. And she said, well, that's okay. I do. And sat down. The ringer played and sang at 15 years old, and got the job. And they would be the intermission music between the floor shows that would go on.
oh, wow.
Yeah, and dad had big bands, and they eventually wrote and performed jingles and were live on the radio here, and that was the language we heard growing up besides English.
Yeah.
Yeah, was music.
Yeah. So you just started singing when you were born, and then you just continued on.
Exactly. Mother would plunk a note. Can you match this tone? And I'm not sure we were even talking yet. So there you go. And if we could match the tone, we were in. Right.
That's really cool. Yeah. So, as far as did you have a moment where, like, I think of myself growing up in a musical family and loving jazz. My dad played jazz all the time, and that we came up on the Great American Songbook. But there was a moment in time where my own taste kind of leapt forward. Was there a moment for you like that?
Yes, I think that's a twofold answer for me. I felt invited slash forced to sing for things that
Oh,
were a part of the family,
yeah,
and for company, for
you're
church
right.
Sunday gathering, father daughter brunches, things like that. And it was like, I was always like, oh, do I have to, even when dad asked me to do my first record at 9, oh, I didn't really want to. And all he had to do was say my cousin was going to do it. And I went, okay, I'll do this. Anyway, so I did not really get the bug until I stepped on a stage, did an audition in 10th grade. Mom played piano for me, walked in, it was January. Mom hurls her fur coat over the auditorium, the chairs, and she proceeds to go into, for this big voiced 10th grader, someday he'll come along the man. And so the director never forgot it. And when I got on the stage and was in musical theater at that time, I went, oh, I get it. I auditioned by myself. I got the part, and that applause was for me, not because somebody made me.
Yeah.
And that's what really turned me around. That same year at 16 is when I joined my first horn band. So a few years later, I'm still doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, yeah. Really great to get into a band like that in those days too. I don't know. I mean, it still is, but especially when it's fresh and new, and yeah, it's great. It's like, wow, this is great. There's no reason to stop that.
Right. I think our choice of music then, mom and dad were doing, as you mentioned, we both mentioned the Great American Songbook. But at that point, my music was, Beatles, Monkees, but then Chicago, Tower of Power, Aretha Franklin, Lydia Benson, Cold Blood. And one of the singers that I admire greatly is a gal named Connie Olson, and says it's in her family's home, right?
Which our dear friend.
I know. Yeah, it was really very fun, and that kept me going for many, many years until my late 20s, when my brother Billy invited me to start singing jazz. And it was a little hard for me to find dough at first with the jazz changes in the front, but I got there.
So that's interesting. So did you go deeply into jazz at that time, or did you really balance it?
I would say that at that point, then I recognized that I was starting to get a little bit of a name for myself as a jazz singer in town.
Yeah.
But the R&B style never left my approach.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a fantastic vocalist in town named Roberta Davis, who would come in and say, "Oh, I see you listen to a lot of Nancy Wilson." Well, I really didn't. I just had and I stole Nancy Wilson's phrase. I feel like I'm a song stylist,
Yeah.
not a certain category of music, vocalist. I don't sing country per se, but just about everything else, except for rap and no. Anyway, so
No, I'd like to hear that.
that's not really gonna a little pop lyric, maybe rap.
Right.
That to the pros.
Yeah.
So anyway, when I moved into jazz, it was then we stayed there because we went from one club to the next, and I had a burning trio. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Really a lot of fun. And I think I was a smaller fish in a larger pond, but I was there singing like crazy, but I wasn't doing R&B and those kinds of bigger clubs anymore. And my name got around differently, I would say.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope you sent me a little bit of jazz singing too. I know you sent me some R&B, but
I did, and it's within the Jazz Women All Stars, which
okay.
But that was an hour-long concert for Mother's Day that we did, all females, vocalists and musicians, and they're wonderful. So, but it's in there too. And scat singer, I would say that I listen to these up and coming jazz vocalists that like Jasmine Horn, who are so effortless in their ability to scat and remind me of Ellen. I just admire that so much because my approach, if I scat, is much more R&B flavored. I would say that's not my forte in life, but I make myself do it once in a great while.
Right. Wow. So let's see. I know for many years, so you've been a dedicated professional singer for many years. And do you also write and arrange?
I don't. I wrote music early on in my 20s, but no, that was never my thing.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that I couldn't, because I had some great ideas in my mid-20s when I was writing, but I'm also the mother of 4 sons who are grown and gone. But I would say that mine has developed more into not writing. I can interpret as a vocalist, like many of us can, or do a reinterpretation of something. I like that a lot, but I've expanded. Diversified is a word I often use. And as a person who talks to an audience, I ended up getting into talk radio.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, that was really a cool experience. Was promoting some events for, I think, the family holiday show, the Peterson Family holiday show. And this was in the late 90s. And my sister happened to be listening. My brother Paul and I were on. She said, "You know what, Patty, that comes easily to you. You should see what you can do to get into that kind of an environment and, be on the radio." And of course, that's like, yeah, right. Right, sure. But the cool thing was I was in WCCO radio, which is a CBS affiliate, and was until recently. And my folks played and sang there. So as kids, we would all go down. It was the live jingles, the live songs, things like that. But now in 1996, 97, it was strictly talk. And they were minus some subs. And somebody was moving and needed a week off. And so out of the blue came this invitation to sub overnights. And he got here and one of those fluky things. It's a 50,000 watt radio station. You don't like knock on the door and go, "Hi, can I work here?"
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
Wow. So it was supposed to happen, apparently.
Supposed to happen. And I always say I'm a real studier of spiritual principles. And Deepak at the time had a book out that really influenced me in many capacities, and it's called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success.
Yes.
And one of the chapters is on intention and desire.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the ability to learn how to I see myself and visualize myself doing this, and letting it go and allowing the universe to come and support you on that path. And, you kind of go, oh, what was I thinking? You think like that. And all of a sudden this phone call came and I went, oh my, what, and it's such reinforcement for, hey, those principles do exist. We're just too quick to want to have an attachment to an outcome of our timing.
Yeah, yeah. I've been listening a little to Abraham, Abraham Hicks. And Abraham is so wise. It's like, wow. It's pretty deep listening to him speak. And but yeah, he says that, we decide what our vibrations will be way before right now. And so to keep yeah, it's really nice how he puts it. He says, anything, even just like cleaning up the dishes. If you want to do it, that feeling of wanting to do something, that is the feeling of satisfaction. And that is the feeling that you have to pay attention to. And so, and also the idea of joy, doing things with joy. You're in the moment, you're doing it, that feeling of satisfaction, it's joy, and I use that a lot. And when I practice my singing, I use that idea of joy, practicing with joy, because even if it's a sad song, it's still joyous to do it. And it connects me to what I have to be connected to. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many parts in singing when you think about it, when you can resonate, like we talked about in the very beginning, a certain timbre, and it helps to deliver the message of the lyric, and you're singing. There is a certain fulfillment that happens, I think, as the deliverer of the message. And that fulfillment creates a really groovy vibration in itself. And I think one word I would add to what you were saying is desire.
Yeah.
Essence of focusing on desire as to drudgery.
Yeah.
So maybe even in my own childlike language, that's what I was experiencing as a kid. Oh my gosh, I have to put on yet again another show. And yet when I finally at 16 had applause for myself, I desired. So I call that the showbiz bug, I desire, and it kept coming my way and manifested, and it was great. So, anyway.
Yeah, I keep thinking about stuff like that too. My dad was a sax player, and I had two older sisters, twins, and they sang, and one played piano. And then my mother had been a singer. So, but for a long time, I thought it was my dad who kind of inspired in me the ability to keep going and keep desiring, keep that forward motion. But I actually think it was my mother. My mother was always the person like, what should we do now? It was always like, there was a joy in what's next, So yeah, I think that was, but my dad, he definitely introduced me to jazz and all that. By the way, you have Mary Loken Cornett who says hi.
Oh, hello, cousin. Oh, that's fun. Good.
Yeah. And I have a few people listening. Hi, girls. Mary, Deborah, Joyce, Linda. Yeah. So, well, I mean, I didn't totally realize that you had your eye on philosophy or spirit, and I definitely do. I mean, that's definitely a huge part of my life, and so I honestly don't know how people can't imagine that is kind of the main focus of how we're here and what we're doing.
Sometimes if you've been singing long enough, or if you are in the process of singing a little bit more or playing, we talk about this a lot in our family. My brother Billy, especially, great upright bass player. But when you get in the flow of the music, the musicians, the lyric, the vibe, it's about getting out of the way and let the flow happen through you.
Yeah. Yes.
And that is, once you recognize that it takes a few minutes to come back down to earth when you're done with the song or the set or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, where did I just go? And it's a fabulous feeling. And that's, we've all said it, haven't we all said it? Anybody listening, just get out of the way and let it flow right through you. Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty
It's really
cool.
great. Yeah.
I actually had my tush kicked in the late 30s and about life and just, people and scenarios that being raised Catholic was great, but I needed more depth. And so I became what we know as a seeker. So being a seeker means that one book led me to the next, which led me to the next, which led me to the next. Authors like Deepak and Marianne Williamson and Debbie Ford and Wayne Dyer and people like that who were giving me new ways to look at things. Caroline Miss, another one.
Yeah. Eckert.
To create that depth and create an understanding deeper than I had had before.
Yeah.
And that just helped me become more of a spiritualist, maybe I would say. And always walking with the golden rule inside of me, which of course is God or spirit, whatever you want to say. But it wasn't only about my Catholic upbringing anymore. It was more about the psychological aspect of the golden rule, doing well, putting your intention out there to be a good person on the planet, etc. I mean, I could get into it more, but it's become a way of life for me in many ways in my belief systems. And I really feel like it helped me heal from a near-death experience too. So, and something you and I haven't talked about yet. So not to surprise you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, will it come up or do you want to talk about it or do you want to talk about it now?
Here's what happened is I survived what took the life of John Ritter, the actor.
What was that?
Aortic dissection. And even when they told me in the hospital, I said, what?
Huh.
So it's where, just a little science lesson here. I knew you have valves in your heart, and the aortic valve is the one that feeds that upside down umbrella handle that goes down your entire body. Your carotids, your arms, and your organs and your legs are all feeding off this main highway. And what happens is that you can get an aneurysm on it. And I knew I needed an aortic valve, but no one said to me that it was enlarging my aorta. So driving my car was the big dagger in the chest. Oh my gosh, this is unusual. Pull off, call the ambulance. And they were treating me for a heart attack. And by some grace of God, by the grace of God, the emergency room physician changed gears halfway and said, he was staring at my x-ray and said, without looking at it, he just went, oh, you son of a gun. And he claims he wasn't that nice to himself. If you don't check her for this other thing, you're going to lose her. And he was right. So essentially, when the blood supply gets cut off, you die. And I was quickly dying. And so emergency open heart surgery. I lived with a mechanical heart valve in half of 14 years. And it was after the fact I learned all about this. And after the fact, 6 months later, that Amy Yazbak found me when I had been looking for her. So one of those cool aha stories again, but belief in that they're going to fix me. Thoughts are things. Your cells listen. They're going to fix me. I'll be right back. I'm better every day. Or those were the ways that I got through that. And I never knew I'd sing again, and I did.
Wow. How long did it take you to kind of get back on your feet?
I can say that my comeback concert, which my sister thought of, was about 6 months later.
Wow. It's actually pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, between rehab for open heart surgery and working with some vocal teachers to gain that strength and wisdom again, I mean, my stamina wasn't fantastic, but I was back out singing. So anyway, I jumped around. I got a little bit far into the future. That was in my 50s.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Now, where's the wood?
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing.
Oh, and
So, and that, did you say that was when your head changed too? I mean, that was like a new door open for you,
well,
or?
you know what? I think it was more that I had a lot of wonderful principles in place. I had already been working at CCO to back up WCCO. And luckily for me, I had a nighttime talk show and I called it the Good Night Club. Perfect. And I got to have on all those wonderful book authors I mentioned a while
Oh,
ago and got to know them.
oh,
And it was really just a gift for me. It was my college, basically. I learned so much in that job. And about 7 years later, I was feeling the ill effects of whatever was going on in my heart and left there. And a couple of years later is when the dissection happened. So, anyway, yeah, you have a different aha in life. You can't escape that. You do. You have a, how can I give back even deeper than you might have lived once before? At least that happened for me. So,
yeah. There's you're probably familiar with the Indian woman, Anita. I forget her last name, but she died on the table, and she said she saw family and friends, and they said, you can come here or you can go back, and it's up to you. And so she, and you, if you go back, you can change your life and you can be healthy. And so she went back. She was stage 4 cancer, I believe, and she went back, and she's really, you know, gives a lot. So her whole thing, that really just laid out her path for her, you know. Very sweet. She's really lovely. I'll have to send you the link. I'll make a note of it.
right
um,
up my alley.
yeah,
I love
but
that.
I love it too. Boy, you're so lucky to be able to talk to those people. That's just so beautiful.
Yeah, it really was. That was intention and desire too. I mean, the just
Yeah,
wanted to help people with the wisdom that I had gained by reading their books and all of the studying they did, putting it into books. And so I thought, wow, if I can help people as much as I've been helped
yeah,
and be the conduit, that would be so great for me. And you know, Kathy, I have to say that sometimes we in this music business get to a place where it's like, oh, I don't want to do that tune one more time. I don't want to sing this club one more time. And you're kind of stuck because what else are you going to do? You know, and a lot of, I never really traveled or toured except for as I got a little bit older doing, I would do corporate shows and, did a few nightclubs here and there, but chose to raise my kids much like my mom did. And it really was, it was a great vehicle for me. I really enjoyed it and I still do, but now I'm a jazz radio host doing different things like radio documentaries on Minnesota jazz legends, the elders. So
oh, cool.
yeah, it's really a fun thing.
Um, just a note, my friend Sunny Wilkinson, who's a great singer, she lives in Michigan, and she's been doing, I think she's still doing it every 2 weeks. She'll do a show, actually the hour before my show goes on, and interviewing Michigan legends, you know, and it's wonderful. And she's a really good, very good host, you know, it's really nice. So thanks, Dan. Dan has listed your credits with All Music, so we'll go look at that. But so so you have a jazz show on now? You're a radio show,
I do.
and so
It's
do you
little,
play CDs or you do documentaries or
I
interviews?
do everything. I'm a part-timer who does Sunday morning jazz or a more progressive jazz future, as we call it. So I rotate that with a really good drummer friend of mine who's been there about 10 years now, and I've been there about 13. And then the radio documentary, I actually applied for a grant through the state of Minnesota to preserve the arts in Minnesota. And mine was this
Oh,
particular angle because I grew up with a legendary jazz elder. And the elder, of course, just, I'm not focusing on old people, the people who have been around and can talk about the clubs, the scenes, how they've changed, name drop the clubs, the different musicians, and preserve that piece of history for the state of Minnesota. And just interviewed my 40th person yesterday,
Oh,
fantastic vocalist, Carol Martin.
wow. Cool.
So
So
anybody from 90 down to 75, that if you're under 75, you're too young.
I'm going to put it in the comments. Where do we go to listen?
Well, the current shows are available on jazz88.fm, and they would have to look for Minnesota Jazz Legends, the Elders.
Okay, Minnesota Jazz Legends.
And then colon, the Elders.
What a great idea. I love that. Yeah,
Well,
I
when you
love
hear
that.
your 91-year-old mother play the snot out of the piano, it's like, oh, yeah. And there's two horn players in their 90s up there, and I can't remember who else, but really seriously, been a gift for me to be able to do this. It's been
I
very
love
great.
that. I
Yeah.
really love that. You know what, for many years I was the kind of young person, you probably were too, I bet, who I really liked talking to older people, you know, and I just always felt very, I don't know, in honor of them, or and I could never understand why people treated them badly. You know, like, oh, you're old, you probably just don't, you're stupid. It's like, no, it's the other way around. It's kind of in our culture, I guess, to, I mean, there are pockets of pieces of the culture that actually do revere older people. But there's a lot in our culture that doesn't, just kind of throws them off.
Right. Yeah. Michael Ruff has a beautiful song called "What Kind of World Is This?" And I just
Mm,
the lyrics the other day, and it talks about that principle and how can we shy away from that and shun the old and you know
wow.
turn our
I'm going
faces
to look
away.
for this.
Yeah,
Michael
turn our
Ruff.
faces
Yeah.
from lovers and whatnot.
Yeah.
World is this? I believe is the name of the song.
What kind of world is this? Okay,
Mhm.
cool. I'm just going to, since Dan has showed this, I am, let's see, just there's a discography as well, but this is, so you have, this is your credits. So you're doing some background, you're doing some solo work. Oh, this is cool. And Olita Adams, this is fun. You did two with Olita, or maybe more.
I actually did many more than that. She gave me credit on those,
Oh,
which was really nice. And I was, yeah, it was interesting. That was the year after my talk about a comeback. She was recording in Minneapolis, and I did have an album with her along with my two brothers, Ricky
oh,
and Paul. And it was she's sang my mom's funeral. I mean, she's become
oh
such a
my gosh.
friend. Love Olita
Oh,
Adams. Love you, Olita.
oh, that's so sweet. And I see that you also worked on with Ben Sidran too.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of Ben Sidran's too.
he's a family friend, and brother Billy, who's an upright bassist, has toured with him for umpteen years. And quite honestly, here's an interesting story, Boss Skaggs and Steve Miller and Ben Sidran, all from the Madison area.
Yeah.
And when Steve Miller took a little hiatus, came back and did a kind of a jazzier CD in about 86, I'm going to say. And Ricky and Gordy Knudsen on drums, Ricky on keyboards, Ben Sidran on keyboards, Billy Peterson on bass, and I think Paul Peterson on guitar. And they were trying to do like this hip bluesy version of God Bless the Child and whatever. And they'd get out into these arenas and all they wanted to hear was Fly Like an Eagle and all of Steve's hits. And so they quickly dropped that music and toured for many years doing Steve's old tunes. And eventually Ben, got back off the bandstand. But Ben has been a family friend for many, many years. And He's the one who will teach the all important lesson when you're doing a vocal and you're live in the studio and you get just a couple takes, all the attitude, all the charismas, and take one or two. Don't beat it to death, even if you're not singing perfectly. So some of my live jazz recordings, I have had to learn to live with that character, even though she's not perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I always tell my students, like in the studio, you can fix anything. Like you can move a phrase, tune it up, whatever. You can do so many things, but you can't fix heart. So just put the heart in and don't worry about the rest.
So true. So very, very true. And it is when they get that, talk about ahas, and going back to students, when you work with someone for a little while and they're new to this process and they're getting familiar with where to put their breath marks in, and because they're so many times they're listening to music that takes out the breaths that I'm a loud breather between phrases. And so they could be easily edited out and people think they've got to do 4 lines in a row with no breath. So having them learn that, and then having them learn how to get through it and then put their own heart into it, and eventually then from memory tell their own story from their own heart, even though they're singing somebody else's lyrics. You tell the story from your perspective. That aha that we can see on their faces is amazing. I love that.
Yeah. So you are a teacher as well?
I call myself a coach because I never had a formal lesson. Mom was a singer, and so the typical in the basement, where to place my voice. And, I working 6-7 nights a week in my late teens, early 20s, quickly taught me self-preservation. I had to kind of blow out my chops once, but, in order for me to go, okay, I'm never going to do that again. And, just got stronger and stronger, but right. So that I can't officially say I'm a teacher, although I know I'm teaching, but I can do tricks of the trade and coach where to place voices and, so anyway, yes, that's what I call myself.
I bet you're good at harmony too.
Personally, yes, I can do harmonies, and I often am given that stinking middle note because it's so easy to waver up or down. So, but I can stay straight on that middle note.
That's funny. I know the middle note. The poor middle note, man. Yeah, it really has a rep with singers. I mean, it's a great note, but it has a rep,
Yeah, you better not be sharp and you better not be flat. That's all I got to say.
Yeah,
and that's why it's tough, I think. But for me, it's like if I finally get to sing the high part, I'm going, oh, thank you. And you hear that, great.
That's funny. When I was growing up with my sisters, I was the high note, because I was young and, well, although I did have a low voice, but I was the high melody note, they would be the harmony. And then, that changed. But I was drawn to the middle note because that's kind of where the juice of the chord is too,
Well, that's true. And you make the chord or we break the chord.
And it's also usually in the break of the voice, right? Many times.
Yeah, it sure can be. So I was going to say to you, what's funny is I'm so used to being the one to interview somebody that it's hard for me to not ask you questions now that made me go, well, how many kids were in your family? And who, and who did they all play and sing? I already know about your father and I know about your mom, and so you've got a musical family too, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. My mother had been a singer, and my dad was a sax player and, woodwinds, and he had big bands. So on Sunday mornings, I would help him put the big band book back together. So that was kind of, it was, and then I would go to rehearsals with him. I was more his daughter, and my sisters were more my mother's. They were straighter, and I was, more like my dad, which could be good or bad, Well,
you had a different sense of curiosity, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. My sisters had gorgeous voices and really beautiful blending, but they, because they were straighter, they chose not to really go into the profession. They
Mhm.
sang till they, till they died, but yeah, they were, they just, they got married and they went that way. And and then me, I went the other way.
Well, you had to, you were beating that positivity drum. I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna make it happen.
Well, it was so much fun, especially I grew up in Boston,
Okay.
and then I went to Berkeley there for flute and arranging when I was young, but they didn't have vocals at the time. But I was singing all the way through. But yeah, I mean, at that time, that was the early 70s. It was such an amazing time, right? For music and in Boston. I mean, it had
Yes.
blues and R&B and Motown, and it just had everything during that time. I mean, I got into more modern jazz, ECM label, Pat Metheny and all that stuff.
Right.
And so it was very rich at that time. I don't know how I could have not followed that path. It was just too delicious.
If it excited you, that meant that was a meant to be situation.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we can question it when we get all excited about a style of music or a person we're hanging with or playing with or whatever.
Yeah. Who were a few of your favorite singers coming up?
Well, I guess that for starters, we listened to a lot of Ella Fitzgerald
Hmm.
in our house growing up. My mom was a favorite of mine. And then I would say about the time I started singing, Barbra Streisand was a favorite of mine as a young girl, not because my mom played it, but her sister, her family played Barbra Streisand musical theater. And I'm thinking, who is this girl? Who knows?
Genius.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly. And
Yeah.
so I was about 11 when I started mouthing the words to her Barbra Streisand third album or something like that. Made my mother watch those shows, although I was only mouthing the word. But it was a lot of fun. Anyway, when I was 16, I loved Lydia Pence.
Oh yeah, me too.
Because it was a style of music that I was doing in this band. And then of course, any vocalist with the group Chicago was singing in it, they're high tenors. So that was easy to sing. Aretha, Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder. Yes. Shaka. To try to cop a Shaka Khan lick was like all of us singers in town.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun too. There was a few of us, Melanie Rosales and Margaret Cox and myself and, a few others that we would try to do,
Yeah.
licks throughout the years. And,
Yeah.
they find their way into a tune here and there too. So
Yeah.
I can't really think else. I love Carole King. Oh, played and sang her like crazy. I played piano and flute growing up classically. And never really jumped on. I did a little ad-libbing on flute, but pretty married to the piece of paper on piano.
Yeah.
And never became an ad-lib artist because I have an inferiority complex. I am clustered. The keyboard players in my family, it's like, and then I'll choose this instead. I'll do this instead and do this kind of vocalist, MC, blah, 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 speaker, whatever. So
I can understand that. That makes sense. Hey, let's listen to something.
Sure.
So let's see. I have Up. I have the Jazz Women All Stars, and I have your promo. What do you think?
Well, the Jazz Women All Stars. I mean, I think that it looks, from what I know, is I think there could be an opening piece by these incredible women that they're just doing. Mary Louise Knudsen. Oh, maybe I am singing with her. There you go.
I know Mary Louise. Actually, Connie Olson introduced me to her.
Yeah, she's just wonderful. So Mary Louise, Sue Orfield on saxophone, Joan Griffith on the bass, and Sheila Early on drums. And then eventually my sister is in this group, and we rotate vocalists and musicians. My idea comes from, thank you very much, Terry Lynn Carrington and the Mosaic Projects. And
Cool.
I thought to myself, women don't have to be the exception, they can be the rule. And I started with this idea in 2015, and now we're playing together about 4 times a year.
Oh,
Different
nice.
musicians. So
And
come in, yeah,
of course, this is at the Dakota, which is a really nice room.
yes.
Well, yeah, Minneapolis. Wow, it's a great room. I think I played there one time.
If it takes forever, I will wait for you. For 1,000 summers, I will wait for you till you're here beside me, till I'm holding you, till I hear you sigh here in my arms. Well, anywhere that you wander, anywhere you go, baby, just remember how I love you so. In your heart, believe what in my heart I know. Forevermore I will be sharing your love. Oh, the clock will take away the hours one by one. Then the time will come when all my waiting is done. The time when you return, find me here and you run to my waiting arms. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If it takes forever, I will wait for you just for 1,000 summers. I am gonna wait for you till you're here beside me, till I'm holding you. Forevermore I will be sharing your love.
Yeah.
Said if it takes forever, I will wait for you for 1,000 summers. I am gonna wait for you till you're here beside me, till I'm holding you. Forevermore I will be sharing your love. Anywhere you wander, anywhere you roam, baby, just remember how I love you so. In your heart, believe what in my heart I already know. Forevermore I will be sharing your love. The clock will take away the hours one by one. Then the time will come when all my waiting is done. The time when you return and you find me here and you run straight to my waiting arms. Oh, if it takes forever, I will wait for you just for 1,000 summers. I am gonna wait for you till you're here beside me, till I'm touching you, till I hear you sigh here in my arms.
Yeah. Ooh.
Warfield, totally in space, just hiding.
Ah, the clock will tick away the hours one by one. Then the time will come and all my waiting is done. The time when you return and find me here and you run to my waiting arms. Hey, 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 if it takes forever, I will wait for you for 1,000 summers. I am gonna wait for you till you're here beside me, till I'm holding you forevermore. I'll be sharing your love. I wanna hear you sigh in my arms. Hey, forevermore I'm sharing your
Holy moly.
Wow.
Wow. That was powerful. Great.
Oh,
I love
thanks.
that.
That's
The
so much
drummer,
fun.
I love.
Oh, yeah, she's in the Phoenix area and she's originally from the Midwest. So once in a great while, I get to nab her to come and do some dates with us. And Sheila Early, she's great. She works at Nash, I think, in Phoenix area.
What is
And
Nash?
Lewis Nash owns the club.
Oh,
I haven't been there myself, but she worked with me at MIM when I had this group there as well, and a wonderful saxophonist who lives in the Phoenix area called, her name is Mary Petrick. But yeah, I've had a lot of fun with these women, and as I mentioned, different configurations. A couple of the gals, unfortunately, in the Twin Cities, and hats off to them, who lost their lives this last year, one to strokes and one to cancer. Yolanda Bruce, who was in a wonderful group called More by Four. She was one of the rotating singers, and then Debbie Duncan was another one.
Debbie Duncan? Yeah.
Strokes.
Oh, she was a really nice person and a really great singer.
Dynamite singer, right? So we did this group together, and she and I we're in a cabaret type of a group together. So
Oh,
we miss these women terribly.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. And nobody could go see anybody, and
Yeah, I
such a
know.
hard time for people this last 15 months.
Yeah, bad time to get sick. I had a friend who passed away right as the pandemic was, starting to roll hard. Luckily, a group of us actually went into his room, his hospital room, and said goodbye. And that was, like the in about 3 or 4 more days, we wouldn't have been able to do that. So it was really great. A guitar player named Barry Zweig, dear
Okay.
friend of mine. Yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, I just that really bothered me, actually. That was one of the things that's bothered me over the last bunch of months. Just people unable to go visit their loved ones in the hospital. It's just so sad.
Heartbreaking. It's definitely heartbreaking. One thing, for example, for Debbie Duncan is, I don't know how I thought of this, but there was I'm going to call her an activities director who I learned you could do an iPad conversation, and we took it to another level, and we did a Zoom. So I got a bunch of singers together, and
Oh,
Debbie was in her bed, but it was towards the holidays, and she always had a real fun sense of humor. Let it snow, we were trying to sing, somebody taking a line or two, and we'd make her sing the end, and it was like, yeah, let it snow. And I mean, she was definitely in there, and
oh,
it was difficult when the effects of the stroke just ended up taking her life, unfortunately. So
yeah.
Yeah, that is hard because we all wanted to go in there and love on her and heal her and sing to her. And, another time we were outside her window in December in Minnesota singing carols to her.
Oh,
We needed to feel like we could do something. So
yeah.
we got her up in a chair to look out. It was hard on her, but, to be the recipient and not being able to be out there with us singing, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually also have a friend, a singer, and he was before he retired, he was a makeup artist for movies and TV.
Hmm.
And yeah, this year he had a stroke just waiting for a bus. He had a major stroke. And unbelievably, the rehab place allows you in. All you have to do is you get a test,
Right.
like the day before or whatever, and you can go see him. So, but it's
Good.
rough, man. The stroke that's rough.
You just never know. You don't know if they're going to come back or not from it.
Yeah.
We have these gifts and we can use them to at least bring some light to people's hearts. And that's sort of the mission I have, is to remind people they have gifts and to use them. I mean, you're sent here for a reason. Use them.
I agree. Couldn't
Yep.
agree more.
Yeah.
You're a speaker as well. I was going to say public speaker, but that wasn't really what I was looking for. A speaker. How do you?
I say
yourself?
motivational speaker. And it all it centers around. I mean, I find myself doing a lot of church services and companies too, about focusing on your gifts. And because something happens as we get older, sometimes we'll listen to everybody else about what's right for us, and our inner voice and our truth gets buried under a rug. And I know that I didn't know if I'd sing again after my aortic dissection. And so I was just starting to sing in churches again. And there were these two women sitting on the edge of their seats, and they were looking at the bandstand like, oh, they were new there and they wanted to learn more. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, oh, it was kind of like they were checking us out, like they knew what was going on. And I didn't put all this together until after the fact. And everybody, since I'd been the person who was interviewing all of these spiritual influencers at the time, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it, people said, you got to write a book. Nobody survives this thing. You've got to write a book. And I'm going, what possibly could I add to all of the 7 steps or 10 steps to whatever? And it wasn't until after one of the services I was singing at a Unity church, and one of these two women I just mentioned said to me, you know what, Patty, I loved the music you sang today. And I went, well, thank you. It always pertains to whatever the subject is. And I just said, we all have music in good time and times, and in bad times, that follows us all the time in our lives. And I just am so lucky I have these platforms from which to sing them. She looked at me and said, no, you really live your gift. Kind of like this zing from another place happened. And I went, I live my gift.
Huh.
I heard you. I'm going to use that. And she said, please do. And she asked about my family like she knew them. I asked her what her name was, Joy. And I thought, okay, I just met an earth angel, because I've looked for her and I've never seen her again. And she came with a message to me. And I feel like that message that I tell people is, you were born with gifts, don't bury them under the rug. The minute you can get quiet and get reacquainted with what they are, listener, conversationalist, vocalist, who knows, we all know what we want to do, what we're good at. And when we have that opportunity to use them, something happens within us that not only do the relationships with our coworkers and our families get enhanced, but that relationship with ourselves becomes enhanced. And we live from a place of wholeness, from what we should be doing and who we truly are. And that's what live your gift means. So I've been writing a book with some pretty incredible people that I started during the pandemic, and got coaches and everything. And it's been an ongoing process, but if I ever slow down, I'll get back to it. I've got about 4 chapters written, and I love my coaches. We'll get back to it eventually. But
I
that's
can
the
relate
point.
to that.
Right, exactly. It's like we can do for other people and then buckle down. Oh, well, I'll do that in 2 months.
Well, it feels like you're the kind of person that I am. We can talk and we can think of ideas and make plans and pull things together. But writing a book is different. And I've been writing a book for 15 years, and this year I've been editing, and I just got a new thing from a friend of mine, like a new suggestion for I thought maybe I'm through with the editing. I hope. And no, apparently I'm not. And I totally got what he said, and he's right. And I just have to go back in and, and edit again. But my book is a philosophical book. It's small, and it's called The Act of Becoming, but it has to do with how I've noticed that in teaching vocalists or teaching voice technique specifically, in singing jazz and in life, you can actually, the same lesson will apply. And of course, anybody, if you drive a truck well, the same lesson is life and driving a truck. It's all, you just see the lesson and it's the same everywhere. But I just happen to know about those things. So that's what I'm writing about, but it's, it's really interesting not repeating myself, but developing the idea and making it so, like my friend said, he said, you have great food here, but you've delivered it all at once. You haven't delivered the appetizer, then the salad, so that's what, and that's probably part of my nature. What can I say? I'm a Gemini, and I just like, there's a lot of things that attract my attention that I want to just go, oh, this is great, So that's where I'm going. But it's kind of, it takes a lot to sit down and focus and, get in there and slice and dice,
Yeah, right. And it's good to have people to work with. And I have found that I'm not showing it to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Just, the people who one is an editor and one is a book writer herself. And
yes.
I feel like when I'm ready to give it to people, I will. But in the meantime, I'm patient. And when more time opens up on everybody's schedule, I'll go back to that, because they hear me on the level that I always envisioned being heard when it comes to recognizing the gift of getting a second chance at life. And they just happen to be in the same camp of all those people that I was interviewing so many years ago. So to me, it was what I envisioned who I'd like to be hanging with if I ever did write a book. So there you go, intention and desire and divine timing.
So getting back to motivational speaker,
Yeah.
do you do events as a motivational speaker?
I haven't crawled up the ladder completely like that, but I have had a handful of events. Yes. First is claiming that I do that. And secondly, to back it up with a book will make me feel more authentic. Am I ever going to be the person who goes in and learns how to do breakout sessions and weekend retreat things? I don't know that yet. That doesn't call to me. I'm put on this earth to be a singer and to be a vocalist and to execute that and to touch people's hearts with that. But I also know I have a story and a legacy to tell for my kids. Now, motivational speaker, I'd like to think that my story is a motivational enough in itself, because not many people live to talk about what happened.
Yeah. Did you have an experience where you were aware of death?
No, you know what? But I came back. I was filled with anguish prior, and then the anguish was gone. So one of the things I thought I would do, it's been 14 years, and I've never done it. And I don't know why I haven't done it, but someday I still may be hypnotized. Because I know there was a conversation that had to happen and why I came back here. Because you're not alive. I mean, they say you're alive, but when you're in open heart surgery and nothing's beating and you're not breathing and your blood's not in your body, it's not like your soul's sticking around going, you missed a spot.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I was definitely traveling, and I had I have to have a crazy sign for me to realize, oh, all right, okay, I was traveling. I saw my ex-husband there with his hands in his pockets, turned sideways, looking at me, and not until one of our kids got married, I said, "Were you there that night?" And he goes, "Yeah, but you never saw me." And I went, "Oh, but I did." So that was my proof of, I'm going to say, soul travel. So I don't know. I maybe someday we'll go do that hypnosis, but it has to be the right person and the right
Yeah.
scenario. And maybe that isn't what is important. Maybe that's not what's important. I just knew that if healing happened on a
Hmm.
deeper level, then I can understand, and I trusted it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
That's cool. Um, so you raised four boys, correct?
4 boys, 2 and 2.
Okay, first of all, I just want to say, I mean, two boys is a lot. Three boys, my cousin had, that was a lot. Four boys. I mean, it's, everybody, of course, they're your children, you love them, but the boy energy is really interesting, especially when there's more than one.
It is. Can I be honest with you though? My brothers were closest to me in age. My older brother Billy, then my 2 younger brothers, and I had lost a brother to leukemia who was a darling Down syndrome baby. So I was surrounded by boys a lot. My sister was 8 years older, and when you're younger, that's a lot older.
Yeah.
I are tight as can be now, but and have been for many years. But then when I started in the music business, it was me and a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
And then I had boys. And
Yeah.
so for me, it was like I went to school and learned the language.
Yeah.
Sort
But
of.
when they're young, they're like, I have four grandchildren. One of my stepdaughters has two boys and one has two girls. And they're young. They're like 5 and 9, something like that.
Yeah.
And all of both sets. And it's just interesting to see the difference,
Yeah.
and also look at their mothers, and see how their mothers are kind of their vibe with them, and so I just think when they're young, it's interesting because boys have a lot. I mean, when they let loose, their energy level is super high.
It is super high. And you'll smile at this. My oldest boy, Josh, has 2 little girls. He and his wife have a 12-year-old who's a fine singer, real fun singer, and an 8-year-old who can sing really great, but it wants nothing to do with anything that's like her big sister. Then my second boy, Isaac and Andrea, they have 5 boys, 10 down to 2.
Ooh.
Yeah, now that's busy. Mine at least were spaced out a little bit. That's busy, and she is, she's a saint. She's a school teacher, and they had to do distance learning, and was raised on a farm. She cooks from scratch. I mean, she's on a completely different mold. So,
Ooh.
and they are a lot of energy, but they're really fun, and they're so sweet. All of the grandkids are so sweet. It's just I'm calling. Hey, listen, I'm their Grammy because they're probably going to be my only Grammy awards ever.
That's great.
So I call them. Yeah,
That's
fun.
great.
Yeah, very fun. So yeah, there's music in the third generation as well. My 2 of my 4 boys actually played out as professionals.
Oh, okay.
And the boy, my son Isaac, who has all the little boys, he's a realtor and doesn't play drums anymore. But Noah, my 35-year-old, is a wonderful drummer, bass player, and rhythm guitar player. And he was just at First Avenue playing with the Hall & Oates cover band, and solid drummer. Really fun to go out and hear him.
Cool.
And so the same thing with my siblings who have wonderful kids. And Jason is my sister's son who plays sax with Michael Bolton. And my brother Billy's got a couple of sons who live in Montana and work all the time as musicians. So the trickling down effect is huge, and grandchildren now that sing and play, and it is the dynasty. It's the Osmonds. It's the whatever. So we have a good time.
Do you ever think about how music has changed or grown through the years? Like that, Walk On By, or Stop On By rather.
Yeah.
I mean, that's from a particular time that was, just had I mean, we could rip it apart and, verbally and stuff, but I mean, there was these grooves, it was really musical, melodic. There was, I mean, it seems like music like that, even though it was kind of a simple song,
Mhm.
but it just, I don't really hear that now. I hear other stuff. I mean, for years, I always felt like it was just our current R&B or pop songs were just way too involved with sex, and just in kind of a weird way. It was just like flaunting sex, instead of, actually, I just saw some advertisement for Jasmilla Horn, and she was talking about that, and with her new, I didn't listen yet, but her new record, she was talking about how she wanted to show that a young person had sensuality and sex, but not in a, I forget the word she used, but not in a gross way. So do you ever think about music and, how it's changed and where it's going?
Well, of course I do. I mean, I think, first of all, I think first and foremost, I think about what I'm going to be doing for the gigs, and that is about, and what I'm going to be playing on radio. And sometimes there's not enough time in the day for me to think about the other pieces until I'm hit in the face with watching the Grammy Awards.
Yeah.
And I went, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
What, that was not music. And that was, listen, sue me. I
Yeah.
hope to God no little kid watched that show.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
sexuality, that wasn't sexuality. That was, we were watching a porn flick, for God's
Yeah.
sakes.
Yeah.
So it started, to me, I get righteous because, I'll never forget watching, even when I was doing talk radio and I had a hissy fit on it, talk radio, Jennifer Lopez's emerald green shirt down to her waist, where it was like, please don't turn a certain way. My 7-year-old son is watching this with me. So to me, it's more image. I guess maybe that's what I'm talking about, is more image. And as far as the music goes, I crave the days of real instruments, real singers, real, mistakes, not prefabricated, melodined, and auto-tune. And I guess I was raised on authentic music, both in the Great American Songbook and in my first delves into funk R&B. And it's real hard for me to swallow a lot of the prefab stuff I'm listening, right down to smooth jazz. Could we get a different timbre for the drum machine you're using, please? When did tick, tick, tick ever become tick, 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 tick? When is that ever appealing? Come on, and that happens to be the show I have every Sunday afternoon. So sorry out there, not sorry. Come on, put some tone to it. The snare drum on a live setting never has that sound. So, get your Linn drum or whatever the heck you're using and vibe it up a little. So back to your thing, vibe. Yeah, I mean, I'm hard pressed to find some vibe, but then I do some digging and I see Gino Vanelli is just, he's still creating at the top end of his game. It's ridiculous. Gotta find it. Dirty Loops and Corey Wong are working together right now. Dirty Loops out of Sweden, Corey Wong out of Minneapolis with Prince's Hornheads. And, pretty soon this gyration of music that's authentic, real music is still happening. You got to look for it. And for me, it keeps me happy this far. And I don't, forgive me, I'm a jazz R&B snob. I don't go any further because I don't get it. I don't want to get it. Doesn't speak to me, and I don't like what the imagery is for the young people growing up, and I don't know how to combat it. Maybe that's it. I would not know the first thing about combating it.
Yeah.
So,
I
how do I really feel, Patty? Well,
yeah. Well, I mean, it's great. I love hearing you say all that stuff, I speaking of my grandchildren, they don't really care I'm a jazz singer. They don't care. They don't care. Hey, grandma's has a record. No, they don't care. They're, they don't, they just, it's not in their reality because they're very young. They can dance and sing, some of the pop music. And
Yeah.
to me, I mean, I could never feel comfortable with young children like that being sexual, even if they don't realize it's sexual. It makes me uncomfortable. I just don't think, I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I was a parent. Well, yes, I do. I would have them listen to all kinds of music. That's what I would do. And actually, I'm going to start, I told my stepdaughters, I want to start a music night or day or whatever. Everybody in the family gets to play one song and we all have to sit and listen to it. So that way I can sneak in whatever, but sneak in something else and that they might go, oh, I kind of like that, or, oh, what's that? Instead of just focusing on this crapola, because some of it is crap. I mean, the songs, okay, yeah, no, it's not the songs are bad, but it's the whole, like you said, the images, it's disturbing to me.
The imagery is, it's making something unacceptable acceptable.
Yeah.
When, I don't want to give the lesson that it's okay for this, so that if somebody were to try to open a forbidden door, that they've seen something that makes them think it's going to be okay for them to explore anything further. I'm being vague, but I want to stay vague about that. And you're raised by a Catholic mom, and you just, that stuff doesn't leave you. Right and wrong doesn't leave you. I don't know what's happened to the industry. What's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point of all that? Come on.
It just strikes me that something that I was struck with when I was younger, when I started going out to hear music of my choice, one of the first groups I actually went out somehow, I don't even know how I found it or whatever. And my sister took me, so I must have not been old enough to go into a lounge myself. And it was, oh, my gardener's here. Hi. So it was the Modern Jazz Quartet.
Oh.
And it was a small club in Boston, the Jazz Workshop. And Margie and I were sitting in the front. And the thing that I always remember, and I've since kind of looked back at who I appreciated after that, but the thing I always remember was how they carried themselves with this respect and kind of a personal ethics. I didn't call it that at the time, but that's what it was. It was this personal ethics. It was respect. It was honor. Honor is a word, like,
Right.
I don't think that my granddaughter, or even, I mean, she's very young, but, I don't think that comes along with kind of a broad area of R&B and pop nowadays. Of course, there's the exception to the rule. There's wonderful people. But that in itself, that to me has always been part of the music life,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm going to have to think about that more because maybe that's a way that I can appreciate more current music, to find people who are worthy of honor, and respect.
Bruno Mars comes to mind,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
funkalicious, fun time, message oriented stuff. I mean, and
Yeah.
fun, and it's funky, I'd be itching for something new from him. But when I name dropped the Cory Wongs and the Dirty Loops, I mean, you kind of got to be in the know, and that's not as available and palatable to young people because it's not. I mean, Billie Eilish, I have my eyebrows raised about her. I heard a couple of things off her new CD, and my first thought was like something about in love with my future self or something like that. And I thought, oh my goodness, this girl would make a heck of a jazz singer. There's a timbre, there's a depth there that you only see once in a while when you get an Amy Winehouse or a Lady Gaga teamed up with a Tony Bennett of sorts, you know, and that you can hear there's a richness there that's beyond whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
she's a very interesting.
yeah, I mean,
She, my vocal teacher is her vocal teacher,
Mm.
and has been since she was 12, and her brother. And it's interesting because I know that how he works. So if she's in her lesson, she's showing him a very healthy sounding voice, and her style is not exactly that. Her style is kind of a airy, wasting air, kind of a, more current thing. But I think she's very mature. She's
Mhm.
very, connected inside.
right. My son Noah, who's 35, was talking when we were up north last week about how, she is definitely, she's got the goods. They've got the goods, she and her brother. And they have this real low key place in which they do their music.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
are creating some deep stuff. And I said, okay, I can be open to that because I finally heard something other than the visual of you're a bad guy or whatever that lyric is, And I'm thinking, okay, I don't get it. And I get worried for the younger set looking at this with white suits and blood and this and that. And I'm like, okay, that's above me. But if she hangs in there and she's got the right people to hang with, I think, okay, we're going to see somebody who stands a test of time again.
Yeah.
Hopefully. And
Yeah.
she seems like a sweetie.
Yeah.
You hear her.
Yeah.
interview. Mhm,
Yeah. Her interviews are very nice.
mhm.
I want to go hear some more music.
Okay.
I saw something, a Barbara Streisand thing, or
Oh, this is the new thing. And I don't know if LA has been like this too, but you go in peaks where you can just go out and do a night of R&B or a night of jazz. But now Twin Cities is big on theme shows. And so I got a lot of guts. I don't sound like her. I don't look like her, but I decided I would do a tribute show to the incredible.
Soon it's gonna
all right. Okay, great. I also grew up listening to Barbara Streisand as well. My sisters and I were like, fanatics.
Yeah.
And here we go.
Soon it's gonna rain. I can feel it. Soon it's gonna rain. I can tell. Soon it's gonna rain. What will we do with you? You made the teacup look so swell. Who am I to say you're wrong? But say you made the pants too long. Second-hand rose from Second Avenue. From Second Avenue. Don't wanna keep your goodbye. I don't wanna hear you. And we got nothing to be guilty of. Going down the Stony, and I never wanted to go down the Stony, acting more like children than Is enough, is enough, is enough, is enough, is enough. Look down, you'll never see me. 'Cause the sky, that'll be me. I can make them cry. I can make them sigh. Someday they'll clamor for my drama. But it no, nobody is gonna rain on my
Wow. Spectacular.
Really fun. Thank you. It's a fun show to do, and you know, my singer friends are celebs in the Twin Cities themselves. Mary Jeanne is one of them, and Amy Lee, and they have their own you know, Fleetwood Mac tribute, and Amy Lee's got a Kieran Carpenter tribute. So that's kind of what's going on in order to add that extra hook to get people in the door, especially considering days of COVID. You know, when we could get in the door, just add a little pizzazz with artists, you know, doing artists we love. There you go.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and your range is amazing.
Thank you. I'll thank Aretha Franklin for that.
You know, I was just watching Amazing Grace on Hulu. I had those CDs of her doing this. Did you know about that one?
No,
So she they made a it was kind of like the Summer of Soul. It sat around for a long time, and then they put out the music on CDs. Aretha, Amazing Grace, and what she did was she came to Los Angeles in 70 something. I think it was before I got here, so maybe it might have been 72 or something. And she wanted to make a gospel album in a church, and and so they also, you know, were filming it as well. So on Hulu, you can see it, and it's called Amazing Grace and Aretha, and yeah, it's pretty. It's, you know, it's amazing. It's passionate. She was in great voice.
I've seen it. Is this a documentary?
It's a documentary, yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I did not see that one.
Yeah.
There was something else that was out over the winter that was about her life. And it wasn't the new one that just came out. It was something different about her.
Yeah, I know. There was another one. You're right. There was another one. I forget what it was called. Might have just been called Aretha. I think that's on Hulu as well.
Okay, I'm not a huge TV buff, and I forget them. I think as fast as I watch them.
Yeah, well, there's so much to look at. I don't know about you. I have like probably at least 20 tabs open on my browser because I just, again, I find it really difficult to do one thing for several hours. You know, like I read a book for several hours or watch a movie for several hours. So I generally will watch something for maybe 20 minutes, maybe a half hour, and then I have to move on to something else. So, but this, one of my friends, Anthony Wilson, who's a wonderful, wonderful guitar player, he's also moved into the singer-songwriter genre, and just very satisfying listening to him. He doesn't have the perfect voice, but he has a really organic voice, and he's a great storyteller. He really connects, and he's a really good writer, and he does some old blues stuff too. And he said he's been watching this movie over and over again, Amazing Grace, and soaking in something about her singing that has given him something, you know, to sing with, which is very cool. So I thought, okay, well,
Well, I'm going
even though,
to send this to myself so I remember to watch it.
yeah,
Yeah, great.
and it's great because she was definitely in her prime, you know. She looked kind of young, and it was in the church in here in LA, and they had the church singers backing her up, and
Oh,
she had
fun.
brought her own little trio, Bernard Purdy and somebody else, and yeah, Reverend James Cleveland, he was the reverend, and yeah, they were really nice.
Well, good.
um
Really, she was such a teacher to me. I mean, people learning that belt and the lack of break was all learning how to sing Aretha Franklin with an untrained voice, and to learn how to stretch through that break and sing those top high notes that she would sing. And to me, she was singing in full voice. And luckily for me, that's how I received it, and I was able to do it without hurting myself. So,
I agree with you. And with her, I remember thinking that she had like this open space here
huh?
that she was singing into, and she never struggled.
Never.
It was just, it just flowed out of her, and you could really feel it and hear it up above her head.
To look at somebody sing so effortlessly is really a gift. I think that about Esperanza Spalding too. You
Yeah.
know, they're just these. It's just effortless, and they hear the intonation and soulfulness, and I think, wow, how do you do that? How do you do that? You know.
Are you familiar with Cecile
Yeah.
Salvant?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, she's obviously studied, but she is so at ease with anything she wants to do. She's really a very interesting person to watch. I saw a video which is really fun. She's in the airport with her piano player, and I forget where they were, but I feel like it was a different country, like France or something. And they were at the gate, but people were waiting for the flight. And
Right.
of course, there was a piano there.
Of course there was.
Had to be France. And they did Spring Can Really Hang You Up the Most. And she was sitting on the ground, leaning against the wall. And it was absolutely stunning.
And someone took a cell phone out or something.
Yeah.
What? Oh my! I'm looking for that.
Yeah. It was wonderful.
Oh my gosh. That's
So
such
it is.
that's such a rangy tune in the first place.
Yeah. And she was sitting down and just in this position, singing everything. And yeah, it was really, yeah, it's really, it's great when you see somebody like that. Your body kind of soaks in this, whatever that ability is, you soak it in, and it's great.
Oh my goodness sakes. It's the caption is stuns crowd in airport.
Yes.
Teal McLaurin Salvant. Stuns crowd. So don't look for Spring Can Hang You Up the Most.
Right. You'll love it.
I will. I've got it marked now that you told me. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. How fun is that?
There are some singers, who are, well, I have an issue with singers who sing great, but it's more about ego, and it's not that they're prancing around, but you just know when it's more about them than it is about channeling and delivering this message. So I have a real thing about that. I don't get upset about much, but that if I'm in the audience and you see me leave, that might be what I'm doing. It's just like I can't take it. I go into kind of spasms or something.
How often do you come across something like that, though?
Well, not terribly often.
Than here. Not terribly often, yeah.
But I mean, some people who are well known too. I mean,
okay.
It's like, okay, great singer, great ability, really good instrument, but I'm just not, I'm not excited. I'm not turned on.
Well, you know, we all walk a path where we have to learn more lessons. There's still more lessons to be learned.
Yeah.
And I would say that a person may have a gift, but might not have the lessons to back it up.
Yeah.
And hopefully for them that comes in time. You know,
Yeah.
I would like to think that anyway. So
Recently, I've had a lot of experiences listening live to brilliant, heartfelt musicians who are brilliant players and totally channeling. And I really feel like my DNA is changing when I'm listening to them, you know. It's great.
yes, yes. That truly is, yeah, that is a gift when that makes you stop and listen a little bit harder than you would. Oh, instead of going, oh, that isn't that nice. It's like, oh, wow, there's a complete different vibration coming from them too. Feels like, you know.
Have you experienced in singing recently? Have you been experiencing kind of a different state of mind that you've noticed? Like, oh, this feels different somehow?
Well, I would say the answer is yes to that. And it's because, you know, I learned a long time ago there was three things that made me tick, and that is my artist and my woman and my mother, meaning me, you know, the three parts of me. And for a long time during sheltering at home, I didn't get to be the artist, and I really didn't get to be the mom and grandma, you know, and you just moving through life like that, it was, felt like I was on a desert. I still got up and put my face on every day, because the few times I didn't, I was sobbing by the end of the day. And we had a club in town last summer that figured out how to do flatbed trailer, 6 feet apart types of picnic concert settings, saved everybody's soul.
Wow.
But now with that permission slip of being able to get out and perform inside, outside, you know, and granted, I know things are changing a little bit, but I feel like I was bottomless on the amount of energy and love I wanted to give out through the songs that I was singing. I thought I could hold my notes forever. I felt like I could hold my notes forever, that the passion that I had was all coming out, that I couldn't stop. And please let me do it more. Please let me do it more. My awareness for the gratitude for what it is that I get to do in this lifetime was bubbling like the most beautiful brook you've ever seen. It's just, this is the joy inside of me just by being able to open my mouth and sing for people. And that's half of it, because not only at the time that I'm thinking of right now, my siblings were on stage with me, and that is my happy place, but the audience was the same way. They were just right there. They were drinking in every breath, every note, every solo, and just like it was the greatest concert they'd ever seen. And it's, you know, subsequent concerts that I did, that seems to be the energy that's been happening, because we both, the audience and the performer, lived without it for that period of time. We got a taste of being without. The lack was so intense that now the fullness is equally as intense. The pendulum has come the other way. So there's a long answer to your question. Do I feel it different? Yes, I feel it differently. I feel it differently, more so selfishly than I could tell you. It's because the planets aligned on this such and such. I don't know anything about it. All I know is that I get to step on a stage, dig in, find the emotion of the word and the lyric and the melody, and be the conduit. And to be able to be given that gift again is amazing to me. Amazing.
Great answer.
Long answer, but thank you. Okay.
No, well, I asked because I also am feeling very similarly, and especially the audience. I feel the audience right with me, like and you described it really well. They get it too. It's the same realization, you know, and it's wonderful. And I feel a very different universe that I'm operating in now, and it's great. I love it.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree with you more.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a renewed revelation of just how beautiful it is to have the energy exchange between audience and performer.
yeah,
Yeah, it's deeper. I don't know how else to say it. It's deeper, it's richer.
yeah,
I'm even more grateful.
yeah. Is there anything that you would like to mention that you're working on right now, or that you see coming up in the future?
You know, there's just the couple of things in the project for the Minnesota Jazz Legends, the Elders. I have that will be finished by Labor Day. And I'm really proud of that work. And I'll be writing up another grant for another year or two. So I feel like I got chosen to do that, and because of the effortlessness of how it all came to be. And it is through the jazz radio station, which is a public radio station without it being part of National Public Radio or Minnesota Public Radio. So there's that. I made a new Christmas record about 15 months ago or whatever. So I'm not ready for recording right now, but I really do want to honor myself in the desire to finish the book or work more on it. And beyond that, I'm just happy to be and be all the me's that I am. And that is mom and grandma and friend. And after losing so many friends this year, family member, and performer, and just be, you know, I have a lot of ideas for each of the groups that I'm in. Jazz Women All Stars can do a night of Brazilian music. The Jazz Women All Stars we could have charts for a big band of just women and rotating singers, and do a dedication to the influencing jazz women who were before us. And you know, like you said, we're idea people. I can see a show in my head and I can see it working. And the mechanics, I have to give hats off to my husband, who helps me with all the mechanics. And he was a drummer I met on a job. Coincidentally, his dad was a drummer who worked with my folks, but
Oh,
we have a good partnership in that he will, because I'm on the fly more, and he'll be the phone caller and help me co-create these ideas that I have. And then, you know, I guess that's just it. I'm also just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen.
yeah,
I want people to take the science seriously. I want to be able to wrap my arms around the people I love, and the science of really care. I want you to take care of yourselves and your loved ones. And, you know, the science is speaking for itself. It doesn't have to be political. So, you know, I wanted to see my grandkids and work in clubs. I needed for me to get the vaccination. And I have to say that I encourage people to do that. So, I don't know. I can't answer you beyond that. I'm still so excited just singing and doing what I'm doing. I have no specific vocal thing in mind. I'm lucky enough where some of the musicians will just come right to the Dakota and work, or to crooners and work, that I've loved working with through the years. And we have a vibrato date that got put on hold in LA
oh,
that the family was going to be on
yeah,
in June of last year. So that'll happen again too.
yeah,
And in the meantime, you know, we're just all, we siblings are very close. Our dad died super young. And so when one goes through something, the others go through it with you. And for example, one was going to be going on tour that got canceled because the gal he was touring with, it didn't work out. She was too fearful. Another one was facing a health challenge that we all showed up as that person was being taken care of. And what I want to do is just continue to be present for that, and present for all of the facets of my life. I feel like, you know, spiritually speaking, going back to the original parts of our conversation, if anybody's had a horoscope done or a zodiac sign, and you look at the pie they use with the different, you know, zodiac signs, and if you look at pieces of our lives, they can also fit into a pie. And when I look at the pie, which is my life, I see which has bigger pieces of pie in it and which ones have littler ones. The fact that I'm, first of all, even around to be able to have the abundance of this pie called my life, but then to be able to actually have the time to sit down and I love this phrase. Life is a smorgasbord and some poor people are starving to death. I'm not starving to death. I'm enjoying every aspect of my life.
Yeah.
So, very vague answer to your question, but I have so many things going on that I'm just choosing to enjoy every part of them.
Well, that's great. And I want to thank you for hanging out for 2 hours. You know, it's really very generous of you, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you and get to know you and hear you sing more too. It's been great.
Well, and thank you for sending me your music when I was in my little office right here doing music for Sunday Morning Jazz in Minneapolis on the jazz station, because I included you and
Oh,
couldn't
thank
get into
you.
the library and everything was shut down, of course. And kind people much like yourself, because of Catherine Bostick, connected the dots for me and I got wonderful music like yours. So thank you for doing what you're doing and
Thanks.
for hanging out and giving people something to listen to and different perspectives on life. So I appreciate that too.
Thanks. Thank you.
Keep it up, girl.
Thank you. I will. I'm going to let you sign off and then I'll just chat a little. You know, I tell people what to expect and what's coming. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So thank you again.
Thank you too. And I appreciate your time and fun for me to get to know you better too. I hear nothing but wonderful things. And I think anybody listening is going to agree with me right now. So,
Oh, thank
things about
you.
So,
Thanks,
all right.
Patty.
Talk to you later.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye. Oh, she's a sweetheart. Wow, that was fun. Tomorrow, I'm having on a world-renowned percussionist who I've known for 40 years, I think, Luis Conti. He's lives in LA. He's from South America, and he's world-renowned. He's been on many recordings that you've heard. So Luis Conti, it should be really fun. And then Thursday through Sunday is my archives. So Thursday is the drummer, great jazz drummer Clayton Cameron. Friday is a DJ who's on the West Coast here, who does Tuesdays with Abe, and his name is Abe Pearlstein. He's a real character. He's also a photographer, so I think we looked at a lot of his photography on that one. And Saturday is a great singer from the East Coast, wonderful singer who works with a lot of great people. And her name is Rosanna Vitro. And Sunday, the great Dina DeRose, who's a great jazz piano player and singer, and she lives in Austria, I think. Then the following week, I'll just give you the live people on Monday through Wednesday. Monday is a wonderful trumpet player here in LA who is very well respected composer, arranger guy, Brian Schwartz, really good. Tuesday, beautiful flutist who I've been introduced to by a promoter, Ralph Lampkin. Michael Mason is the flutist's name. And then Wednesday, some of you might know Nick Anderson. Nick Anderson is a singer and he's a curator of a long-running home venues jazz series, long-running, years and years. And he's brought in all kinds of amazing jazz singers, including yours truly. And so his name is Nick Anderson. He's in Seattle. That's Wednesday. If you want to find out who else is on my show or what's up, just go to my site, which is, of course, CathySegal-Garcia.com. So thank you so much for being here. I think I'm going to play just a little bit of music while we go out, and might as well play something that Cathy Segal-Garcia has, right? And you know, I do have a CD release party coming up in LA Friday, September. I'm typing that in. Friday, September 10th. It's at a home venue. I think you'll like it. It's going to be a fabulous show, actually. Very organic, several guest artists. The band is outrageously good. Anthony Wilson on guitar, Josh Nelson on piano, Edwin Livingston on bass, and Lorca Hart on drums. And it's at a really nice home venue. Just go on my site. You can buy tickets and you'll get a CD for your ticket. A few of these songs I made music videos of last year. This is one. Or did I? No. No, this is not one. I don't know what I've done. Get Together, that was one. And So It Goes, that was another one featuring Paul Jost. Here's a little bit of the opening cut for what it's worth. The album's called Social Anthems, Volume 1.
He's telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds are getting so much resistance from behind. Stop, hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Stop, hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Stop, hey, what's that sound? Everybody look. Oh, stop, hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
All right, that's all you get for tease. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay? Bye-bye.